Pashupati Advani as well joins in on the show right now. Pashupati, hi, afternoon. Just wondering whether or not you've been a buyer in the recent fall in the market or completely staying aloof.
Well, I'd like to say I was a buyer, but I've been just sniffing a little bit. I'm actually looking at I've always been a contrarian better. So I'm actually looking at the four stocks that have been really hammered and looking at when one should consider entering. And I think, they are looking attractive. These are the four big tech IPOs that came and which are down between 30 and 50%, 60%. So I think you know the names I'm talking about. As you know, I've always been a contrarian. So let's see. Probably this week I'll pull the trigger. Again, we are waiting for the result of the UP elections, at least the polls. And, obviously people are saying that the BJP wins UP, the market will go to 18,000 Nifty. If the BJP loses, it'll go to 16,000. So I think there are factors that are not involved in the market that are also playing, are in the background. And that's also giving me a little bit of cause for concern.
Would be buying all four, Pashupati?
Well, at some point, I think I would like to, because I think they all make business sense. And there's a price for everything, right? As they say. So, this is one of them. The one that looks like the most interesting of all to me is Paytm. But again, its parents, Alibaba and Tencent, are also getting hammered. So we have to wait for those to turn as well.
Quite interestingly, we were chatting with Samir Arora from Helios Capital this morning, and we asked him the same thing, whether he's been a buyer in this recent fall or not. And he said that, given his muted market view, he's actually opted in for ITC. That was one of the stocks that he mentioned, and he said there is little scope for disappointment there. I'm wondering if that's a name that interests you as well.
Well, I do own a small piece of ITC. It's been, as they say, extremely boring, but a reasonable dividend-paying stock. But I think, a lot of market experts are saying that 2022 will be not a very exciting thing for the market. So don't expect the kind of returns we've had over the last 3 to 5 years. In which case, we have to go back to basics and maybe buy stocks that have high dividend yield. And, ITC is definitely one of those. I don't expect any significant event that's going to happen that's going to change things, but I do feel that they'll continue to give dividend. But to my friend Samir, I will only say they just paid the dividends. You have to wait till next year to get the next dividend. And I don't know if Samir is still going to be in the stock a year from now. So let's see.
Okay, so yeah, don't mind being in the boring stocks of the boring space. And one of the, not boring really, but one of the old spaces that we have been tracking and, kind of talking about is real estate. Last week, we heard Rakesh Jhunjhunwala betting big upon it. We had Mr. Parekh talking that he's bullish on real estate and he's never seen a cycle like that in his tenure, which is quite a telling statement. Is that something which interests you as well, Pashupati? And what is the way that you are looking at betting on this space?
Well, the obvious ones are the ones that are going to pull the market up first, which is the REITs and the invest trusts, which are paying reasonable yields, and debt money is going to find its way into that. The next thing is that, people are looking at real estate now, whether you buy the actual realty companies, and there are only 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 companies that, are totally clean and, are making money. The others are kind of struggling. The other way to play it is by doing cement and steel, because the projects are still coming, and also maybe paint companies, because at the end of it all, these buildings all have to get painted and given. And we really don't care whether it's residential or commercial or malls, but we just care that there's more real estate being constructed. So I think the periphery, like even plywood, tiles, all the peripherals of real estate, they're probably a sensible way, because they will also get huge benefit out of it, and they're much smaller cap companies. So I think that will be a good way to play that sector.
Okay, so multiple ways you can play the theme of real estate sector, but hold that thought, Pashupati. We'll come back to that conversation, but let's move on and talk about an exclusive.
Pashupati, so we've discussed, some interesting stocks that you spoke of, Paytm, ITC. Curious as to what the take is when it comes to PSU versus private banks. We have seen that slide underperformance as well, and it continues to be a raging debate on whether or not, the PSU banks are now playing catch up to the private banking peers. What's your take, and, if any names that you'd like to divulge?
Well, I'm going to be really boring and say I don't like the sector at all. because I'm actually worried that, there are a lot of sort of non-performing loans out there, a whole bunch of small ones that have been given by fintech companies, whole bunch of medium ones that have been given to SMEs, and they've just been put on moratoriums, and now those moratoriums will stop. And it will first boomerang onto the fintech companies, which will then go on to the NBFCs and onto the smaller banks, then onto the state-owned banks, and then finally onto the private banks. So that's my sort of proxy. So I'm actually, even though the banks and financials are a very significant part of the index, I would say 20% plus, I'm actually not very bullish about that sector. And I think that until they get their act together, the market as a whole cannot jump up too much. And then when you think about the 75,000 crores of LIC coming, which will also get added into this sector, people are selling stocks of these banks, and whether it's private banks or Indian banks, to make room for LIC. Because whatever you may say, LIC is, what I would call a FOMO issue. So everybody's going to have to own it at some point.
A FOMO issue, that's LIC. But what about the insurance space? You're saying that it's going to be a blanket no, even when it comes to, I know you spoke about the ripple effect on NBFCs, but insurers included?
Of course, I mean, insurers will obviously take a brunt. So we are seeing, stocks like HDFC Life and ICICI Pru have come down slowly as people are lightening up, because, they do want exposure to insurance, which is a buoyant sector. But then we're now going to get 75,000 crores worth of exposure. And, our market, we need to do this issue. There's no question in my mind that it's time for an LIC to come. But whether the market will bear it easily or it'll be like an indigestion, I actually think it'll be a bit of an indigestion, but we'll get it done. I mean, we are India, we're resilient. It'll happen, but it will put pressure on insurance stocks as well as banking and financial stocks.
A very short break, then be right back with lots more market chatter.